We do have one female student brought in with 9 gunshot wounds to the chest.
That have just been freed by police from inside the building. Only God knows where they were hiding and avoiding these gunmen, but they all look like they're okay. This is a...
All right, so well, the world saw how April 20th unfolded, but if you can you share with us your memories from that morning and the last time you said goodbye to your son, Dylan?
The morning was a Tuesday morning, and I had gotten up very early to go to work, so it was still dark outside. And Dylan had an early morning bowling class that morning, so I was going to have to wake him up very soon. But before I had to wake him up, I heard him bounding down the stairs outside my bedroom door. And it was too early for him to be up. And I opened the door into the darkness to ask him what he was doing, and I yelled, "Dill?" And all I heard was the word, "Bye," and then he slammed the front door, and his car sped off down the driveway. And I was immediately concerned, but my thought was not a life and death situation. It was something's bothering him. Something is on his mind. So I turned to my husband and I said, "Did you hear Dylan say goodbye?" And he said no, and Tom had said over the weekend that he thought Dylan was stressed because his voice sounded a little tense. And I said, "I think you were right, something's bothering him. Will you be here when he comes home?" And he said, "Yes, I'll be here." And I left for work thinking that the two of them will talk. I said, you know, talk to him, find out what's bothering him. And when I went to work that morning, I just assumed it was some small teenage thing that was upsetting him and that he and my husband would talk.
I have heard shots. We took cover behind our patrol vehicles.
It appears that they have established a very, very tight perimeter.
I saw 2 kids just in there, and they were in all black clothing. They had shotguns and rifles, and they were just shooting anybody.
They like set off flares next to our rooms, like they were trying to burn the school down or something. The doors were locked, but they can get in.
You were hiding in the biology room?
Yeah, we had the tables up in front of us.
When you realized, when you were told that Dylan had been one of the shooters, what happened? What did you go through?
I didn't understand it at the time, but they believed there might be explosives in my house. So a SWAT team came, and I just remember sitting outside and crying and pacing and asking the police what seemed like every 15 minutes, "Is my son okay? Where's Dylan?" You know, and because I just wanted to know what had happened to Dylan. It had not sunk in yet that he had hurt other people, that he could be responsible for doing that. That took a long time for me to sort of accept and understand. But most of the time that day, I just remember constantly asking what had happened. Toward the end of the day, I did ask one of the SWAT team guys, "Can you tell me what has happened to Dylan?" And he turned to me and he said, "Well, he's dead." And I said, "How did it happen?" And he said, "I don't know."
Talk to me about some of the anxieties and the grief that you went to, in particular because you stayed in your community, and you know you're known as Dylan Klebold's mom.
Right. I've often been asked why I didn't leave the community, and the answer to that is because everyone I loved and cared for, and my career had been there. My friends, people that knew Dylan, had been there. Our neighbors, my colleagues, and I didn't want to go to a strange place and then have to be discovered as, oh, that's the woman whose son killed all those people. But yes, it has been difficult being in that community, no question about it. If I'm in a doctor's office and they're standing there with a clipboard and they say, "Sue Klebold," I just cringe and double over because I look at all the faces to see, you know, because I never know when I walk into a room, is someone there whose family member or loved one was killed or hurt or is permanently disabled because of what my son did.
It's 18 years since that shooting happened. How are you hoping that speaking out now is going to help?
In my research over the years, I have come to believe that when someone is in an extremely suicidal state, they are in a stage 4 mental health condition, that their tools of reasoning and logic and conscience and all the things that we have and we take for granted, they have lost access to those things at that point in time. And I really truly believe that if we had addressed Dylan's suicidality, certainly, that he would not have been there that day participating in that tragedy. And the chances that someone you love will do that are very, very small, but the chances that someone we love may be suffering maybe wearing a mask to try to appear normal and working very hard to try to appear normal when inside they are suffering. That is a very, unfortunately, a very common condition. And I think we all need to do a little bit better job of tuning in and listening and slowing down to hear and see what's going on around us.
How are you doing today?
I think okay. After going through difficult times in our lives, it changes who we are and what we're about. And I think losing Dylan in such a terrible way and having him hurt innocent people and kill innocent people, it changed my life profoundly. And one of the side effects from that is it gave me sort of a purpose-driven life. I feel that it's one of the most important things I can do is to share his story, to try to help other people who may be struggling, to prevent a lot of the suffering that goes on that we may not be aware of. And for those side effects of this, I'm grateful, and I feel that my life is a good life, and I feel a lot of gratitude.
I've heard you a couple times saying, you know, if I had seen this, if I had noticed this, if we had stopped this. How do you make that transition of putting blame on yourself and actually realizing that this is somebody else's actions?
I don't think I will ever get to a place where I don't have some regrets that I didn't say the magic words or listen in a certain way to help my son when he needed it. But that being said, a lot of what healing is learning to forgive yourself, learning to understand that, as I was saying earlier, I believe that my son was experiencing some kind of illness that impaired his judgment, that made him act in a way that he would not have acted if he had not been in that condition. I don't think I will ever stop wishing that I had not found the perfect thing to say.
What do you miss about Dylan?
Yeah. I just miss everything about him. I can still hear his voice very clearly in my head and his laugh. I miss talking to him. He's very funny. He made me laugh. Today I was pacing in my room and kind of, you know, thinking about things, and I noticed I was doing a gesture that he did. He clicked his fingers when he was nervous and was thinking. Those are many things I think about him. And as a young child, he was an exceptionally bright, precocious child, and I was so proud of him. And he made me feel like such a good mom because he was such a good little guy and so good at everything he did. I miss that feeling of safety and pride, and because, of course, what he did, you know, changed all that.
You know, we started out, you told me about the last time that you said goodbye to Dylan. You noticed there was something different in his voice.
Yes.
You were worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go back and say anything to your son on that day, what would you say?
My fantasy is that I literally tackle him, stop him from going out the door, and just sit with him and say, I'm not going anywhere until you talk to me and tell me what's happening. I don't know if it would have worked or not, but that is my fantasy, and my fantasy would be to just prevent him from going out that door. I think one of the big messages I've learned is that love is not enough to protect someone who is struggling with mental health issues. We can't save our loved ones from cancer by loving them more. And we can't save them necessarily from mental illness by loving them more. But many people like to believe that these things occur because people are not loved enough. And that is a complete fallacy. It's just not true. It takes more than love. It takes knowing how to communicate. It takes good mental health care. It takes a community of people who are tuned in and asking the right questions. And I hope that for everyone. I hope that we can all have that if and when we need it, for ourselves or for people we love.
Thank you.
Thank you.